It is the 20th of May, 2012. Got most of the garden done, finally. It's been a pretty good spring. Not much rain, but pretty decent weather. A little too warm for some cool season crops, but most everything else has taken off really well. Finished up caging most of the tomatoes this morning, and give you guys a little bit of a garden tour. It's the middle of the afternoon, sun's pretty bright, so the silver film is, needless to say, pretty brutal. First bed here, this was radishes. They bolted pretty quickly in the heat, and I've got a few squash plants growing in here. Rest of the bed is garlic. The front ones are elephant garlic. They've already scaped and are just about ready to harvest. You should be able to see the dead leaves at the bottom. Once about the bottom 2 or 3 leaves get completely brown, I'll dig these and let them cure for a couple of weeks. As we move up the bed, this is a Indian stiff-neck garlic, and you can see there it's starting to scape. That's the flowering head of the garlic plant. I'll let it get one full curl. It should stand right back up. There's one there. Pretty much all of them have scapes on them right now. Once they get one full curl, I'll cut them. We'll use them for pesto or in a stir fry. Pretty tasty stuff. Okay, now let's look at the tomato beds. This is a second year bed. I built this one last year. It's got some pretty good looking tomato plants in there. They had a little rough start. Right after I planted it, we had a really heavy rain. But they've rebounded pretty nicely. Most of them are getting to be close to a foot tall. Move over to this bed. This bed contains some really unique plants. This first one, first year release for this. This is Indigo Rose. It's out of the P20 line out of Oregon University. Supposed to be a almost blueberry colored tomato. Across from it, really special tomato. This one is called Surprise. You could tell, and the silver film is really bright, but it has a pale foliage. Craig LaHoulier gave me a few seeds for it, and this is the one that came true potato leaf. And throughout this bed, caged in concrete wire cages or some other different varieties. Over to the right, this is my pepper setup. These are all in 5-gallon grow bags. They were all planted, all of these were planted last Sunday. Been in the ground about a week, been in the bags about a week. Each one has a 2-gallon per hour drip emitter on it. The silver film is just for weed control, so I don't have grass and stuff growing between them. It's just easier to work in. I'll have this set up on a timer to run every day for about 10-15 minutes. So they'll get a little less than a quarter water a day. Production in containers for peppers and eggplants is much, much greater than in raised beds. This is, if you remember the video from earlier this spring, the spinach bed, which I pulled all the spinach and now have Beauregard sweet potatoes in them. Starting to take off pretty nicely. We've got soaker drip line running the length of this bed. So move over here. This bed has mostly black tomatoes in it. On the left is 3 Ananas Noirs. On the right, chocolate stripes, Indian stripe. And at the far end, 3 purple haze plants. Very excited about those. Bed here to the right has golden beets in it. They're withering a little bit in the heat, but they'll bounce back this evening. We haven't harvested any of these yet. This is the last of our lettuce. Some black-seeded Simpson. The beautiful burgundy plants down here are collards. On the right, my onion bed. And that giant pile of weeds is an asparagus bed that I really need to work over. Speaking of weeds, that's the corn patch. The corn is doing pretty well. The weeds are taking over, but it's looking pretty good. I really need to get in there and weed that. This bed is my green and right bed. We have a couple of absinthe, Cherokee green, and can't think of the other green one. I have to look at my map. This bed is my cherry bed. 7 different varieties of cherries in there. So move up. This is my San Marzano bed. I'm not going to use silver film in this one. The plant's just got a little too big. A little more cumbersome to put it in there. I'm going to get some straw and mulch this. There's the asparagus. We had a really good harvest this spring. Letting it go, put nutrients into the roots. Here I've got a late planted plants. I've got a pineapple and a persimmon. That's my black bed. I've got 4 Cherokee purples. Oh, sorry, 3 Cherokee purples, a Cherokee purple heart, and 4 carbons. Moving down. This is my new 16-foot bed I put in this year. Cajun Texas tomato cages. On the right we have 5 Brandywine Sudeths, and on the left 5 Brandywine Calyx. So should have some really good comparison between the two to see how they compare for flavor. This bed here, I've pulled all the romaine out, and I've planted okra on the right hand side. On the left hand side I've got some bush beans. Same in the bed to the left. Pulled all the lettuces out. Got a couple of different varieties of beans in here. I've got a purple pod. You can see the stems on this actually have some purple to them already. And at the end I have dragon tongue beans. Kind of interesting variety out of Baker Creek. Alright, last but not least, this is our last spring crop bed. Pulled the red lettuce out. They just bolted. Got some chard, some lovely white moss, looking for some brassicas to lay their eggs on, but there's not many left. Had an amazing kale harvest this year. Lots of kale chips and sauteed kale and freezing it. A couple of cucumber plants there, and then the last 2 kohlrabi. Pretty well eaten to death, but still pretty tasty. Well, I'll do it in the progress video as the spring goes on.